Network. Today I have a very special guest. Today we have Christian Smalls. He's an ex-Amazon worker and an activist. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so just to get a little bit of background, so around this time last year, you were fired over a year ago for violating a paid quarantine and led a protest over the workplace conditions at Staten Island warehouse. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
So can you give us some background about your affiliation with Amazon and really the backlash you've received?
Yeah. So you're right. After March 30th, I was terminated over the phone, and then about a week later, Jeff Bezos himself decided to try to run a smear campaign on me, calling me not smart or articulate. Ironically, to make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts against Amazon. And he did sign off on that. But that motivated me to found this organization, the Congress of Essential Workers, and ever since then, the entire year we've been traveling the country protesting against Amazon and Jeff Bezos specifically. So they tried their attempts to silence me several different ways. Even legally now, we're taking legal action against them. They're still pushing back against that.
Yeah, I've noticed too, especially whether it's independent media, we're trying to create an independent media platform, not only for black leftists, but for really anyone who wants to have a platform to talk about issues. And really what I want to ask you next is what was your experience not only with Amazon too, I know you mentioned that earlier, but what was your relationship to the workers during that time? Because you were one of the most outspoken people during peak COVID when
Right.
Amazon behind the scenes was proven with documents covering this up, not actually taking care of their workers. So how did you go about that process?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's ironic again because Amazon sort of prepared me for it. I got hired with the company in 2015, got promoted in less than a year. So I was in a position of leadership. I was already a supervisor with the company for 4 years, and I spent 40, 50, 60 hours a week with these people. So they were my extended family. They still are till this day. These folks, their children will come to my children's birthday parties and vice versa. So that's what I meant to them. I meant to be a leader, no matter if I'm on the clock or off the clock. And I'm surprised even till this day that I'm the only one that I could think of in a position of management or assistant management that really was outspoken about the whole coronavirus and the situation that we were facing, because it was life or death, and it still is. This virus is still here. Everybody's not vaccinated yet, so I'm still out here fighting. Over a year later.
Right. Can you tell us about the protests that happen in New York? And a lot of times with protests, it's not just about the cause they're fighting for. It also sets you up for relationships you can have with different people that you probably didn't even meet, and also work with different grassroots organizations in that area. So when you end up leaving a protest, you have some type of groundwork to continue the movement and the mission. So can you tell us about the Congress you were talking about in your intro?
Yeah. So yeah, the Congress of Essential Workers was founded last year around when everything happened with Breonna Taylor. That was our first event. So around June and July, that's when we started forming together collectively in the New York area. We did several protests in New York. My first one was at Jeff Bezos' mansion, at his $80 million mansion. That was back in, I believe, August. And you're right. From that moment forward, we built plenty of relationships with some of the New York City orgs. We were able to, every time we travel, the first thing we do is reach out to orgs that's already been in that community on the ground out of respect. We don't want to come to somebody else's territory and just, set up shop and protest and rally without inviting the orgs that have been doing great work prior. So we always extend that invitation. And now, a year later, we got a lot of support, especially a lot more than what I had last year. I can tell you I had zero. I was a rookie. I'm still a rookie in the organizing world and the activism world as well. I'm still learning as I go. And I'm happy to say a year later, I gained a ton of support not just here in the nation, but internationally as well.
Right. I can say from, just watching different lefty shows that you've been on, hearing about you on TV, you've definitely made a difference. It takes a brave person sometimes to be the spark for a movement.
Oh yeah,
And just look at the unionization drive with Amazon right now. A lot of that energy probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't someone like you standing up, you know, being really the sacrificial lamb in terms just to get this ball rolling.
absolutely,
So, I saw an article, I believe that came out today on Yahoo, and it talked about a lawsuit that was in New York due to the COVID shortfalls by Amazon by the Attorney General. Can you tell us more about that and what the details of that may entail?
absolutely. Yeah, I just seen it too about an hour ago. It came out. I was taking a nap and I woke up and was like, wow, this is great news. So for those who don't know, Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, filed a lawsuit on my behalf and several other workers' behalf about the health and safety concerns we were raising. Amazon obviously hired all these high profile lawyers to push back and try to get it pushed to a federal court in the Eastern District of New York, which we had a case there earlier last year that got dismissed by this appointed judge, obviously a Trump appointed judge, who threw the case out without even really taking a real good look at the issues there. So now we been pushing to keep the current lawsuit, in the state court, Supreme Court in Manhattan, which will give us better leverage in the fight, opposed to getting it pushed to federal court in Brooklyn. So today, that news that came out today is saying that it was rejected. Amazon pretty much took an L today, trying to get it pushed to a federal court. The same judge who dismissed our case with the NLRB last year. So now we just have an even playing field, so to speak, and I'm happy to see that it's in our favor now. So we have a very good chance of this lawsuit.
Yeah, and I've noticed too, Amazon being such a large company, one of the largest in the country, also having so much influence, not over Congress, but over the judiciary process itself, due to how much money they can give out. And
Oh yeah,
in the article itself, it showed that they wanted to move the actual jurisdiction to Brooklyn and to some of these smaller cities because that's what they can have the most influence over.
oh yeah,
And also too, one of the things we worried about was okay, if it goes even to the federal state side, that could even have even more influence. And even if you look at Amazon, which happened today, the unionization drive failed, which is very sad. But what's concerning to me is all the rhetoric and the fear mongering and the lies about what a union is by Amazon.
right.
And so the question I have for you was, how has Amazon's fear mongering about unions in general affect the country, and how has it affected its workplace by forcing workers to attend anti-union meetings?
It definitely it plays a part, and this is a part of history. This is not just something new. This happens all the time. But this union drive is special and different because of the situation with the virus and the window of opportunity and the controversy surrounding Amazon for the last year. So when it comes to working class people in this country, we don't have a voice, especially in the White House, and that's the number one issue. We don't have laws that protect workers. We don't have bills like the PRO Act that's passed already. We don't have the same laws in Congress and the antitrust committees that they have overseas, like Germany, France, and Italy. So these are some of the systemic issues, and Amazon just it utilizes those and exploits them, and it obviously goes above and beyond. They have millions of dollars to do, and that's what they did. They poured millions of dollars into this campaign to bust it up, and it played a vital key. It helped, but also what I want to point out is that we have to, as workers, we have to continue the conversation even after we get to our first goal, whether it's just getting to the union vote itself. What I've seen from going to Bessemer, the workers pretty much got disconnected. In some way, they got disconnected. And it's not their fault. It's going to happen when you're working 10, 11, 12 hours. You don't come home and turn on CNN or MSNBC or You don't come home and jump on Twitter and Instagram all the time. As a working person at Amazon, you're coming home trying to take care of your family and rinse and repeat. You got to get ready to go to work again. So we got to understand, how do we reach the mass nonstop, 24/7? Because this company never closed. The warehouses never closed. They're 24/7. So we have to figure out, how do we stay connected with these workers through and through, all the way until the vote is passed. Unfortunately, this time around, we learned that it didn't work, but that doesn't mean that we can't try again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think one of the concerning things to me is, and some people have said was kind of really illegal, was that they would send out mass emails prior to the actual vote, giving them like lies and anti-union rhetoric about what a vote for a union would mean and how it will impact their lives. Like many of them saying some very unfactual things. So, like, what's your opinion on really Amazon itself using certain Twitter accounts to go after not only Bernie Sanders, really to send mass emails, really discouraging people to really vote for a union, and really how can we stop that? So, what's your opinion on that?
Well, the good thing is that the public is watching Amazon very under a microscope right now. So exposing all their wrongdoings is one thing. We have to turn the public opinion about Amazon as a whole. Amazon is a drug that people are just hooked to. For some reason, people can't wean themselves off of this Amazon drug. And you think about it, how it destroyed our communities for years, and how it's putting small businesses out of business. Obviously, making profits off of workers' backs. We have to understand that exposing every little thing, even to Twitter bots and the peanut bottles, these type of things, people weren't talking about unless we come forward, unless workers come out and tell these stories, reach out to journalists. So we have to expose them any way we can to try to change the public opinion about this company. That's been working in our favor, but obviously with the millions of dollars they have, and the fact that they are set up in every major city in our nation, we have to go deeper than that. We have to continue to organize, continue to debunk all the union busting non-facts that they put out there. So what I did, I made a video that pretty much went through the whole list of their Do It Without Dues website, and I just reversed it, and I said all the facts that are true about unions and why it is important for workers to have one. And using our stories, especially the people that were fired, several of us, myself included, that were fired last year by the company, using these stories will help resonate with other workers, so they can understand the importance of why they want to have a union to protect them, so the same thing that happened to me won't happen to them.
Right. And you mentioned earlier too that you actually went to Bessemer
Yeah.
to actually talk to the people who are trying to unionize. And also, too, it hit mainstream media that Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, one of the most progressive senators in the United States Senate, also went there in support. And one of the problems is you had the Alabama senator, Tommy Tupperville. He's the one saying, oh, this is why we shouldn't have Hollywood elites come in and tell us what to do. People should have free will. And he was basically bashing Bernie Sanders. And so when you have senators like that who are completely disconnected from the workers and from their people, and they say these lies on TV, it makes it hard to debunk. So my question to you is, how was Bernie Sanders received in Bessemer, Alabama, for that union protest versus the actual mainstream media's coverage of it?
So I would love to say that he was received very well, and he was. Obviously, the rally looked good. It looked good. But did it really resonate with the workers? I'm not too sure. And I'm not trying to, knock the union for its efforts in inviting Bernie. I would have did the same thing. Who would turn down Bernie Sanders? But here's the thing. Once again, do workers in Bessemer that work these long hours come home and say, "Hey, look, oh, Bernie Sanders is coming to town today. Let me drive over to this rally"? I don't think so. So I don't want to say I agree with them not inviting him. We needed that, but I don't know how far it reached the workers. I just say that I don't know because I wasn't there when it happened. But I can tell you from what other people have shared with me that it was only just a handful of workers that were in attendance. so it didn't reach too far. And as a result, from the results that came out today, you can kind of tell, that no matter, even on top of the union bust and tactics that Amazon did, the vote itself, the numbers itself, related to the amount of people they reached, the influence that they had. So, once again, they just had to refine, retool their campaign and figure out a way to get connected with those workers all the way through to the end. Because Amazon, I can tell you this is a fact, they never stopped hiring and firing the entire time. So most of the people that signed those the original union cards, they're gone. They were fired months ago. So now we're only dealing with a handful of people that you have to make sure vote yes until the end, and your odds are really against you by then.
Right. And what I have noticed too is that on Brown and Joy Gray's podcast with Virgil Texas, a few Bessemer Amazon workers were there as guest hosts. And the problems they have was really engaging in conversations with what a union truly is versus the fear mongering and the rhetoric about it. You know, I was watching a couple of videos with the aftermath of the actual vote count, and some people believe that, oh, I don't want my job to go away. I want to keep my $15 minimum wage. So, what are some ways we could really politically educate the workers, even in your own workforce, about what a union truly is and how to fight for it? Because we need to actually start earlier next time so we can actually try to beat some of the Amazon mainstream media smears they would try to do. So,
Absolutely.
what are you as a worker, as an activist, and as an organizer? How do you go about teaching the workplace and your workers about unions?
Well, we got to lead. We got to lead a different type of approach when it comes to the conversation. Um, I know people say $15 an hour is a decent pay, but I was making $25 an hour, and I still had a second job, and I still was living check to check. Um, we got to start raising the bar. Inflation since the 1960s. If we're talking about nationally, we all should be getting paid minimum wage, $25 an hour. So why are we shooting ourselves down below the bar? We need to start higher and negotiate from then. We can't just think $15 an hour is sustainable now when you're trying to raise a family of three, four, five. These workers only make 35,000 a year. Warehouse workers, at least entry level. That is not enough. I can tell you that is not enough to raise your family, have a decent living wage, meaning have some type of savings, have some type of medical pay, and have some type of insurance that will be beneficial to you and your family. These things are something that we can negotiate. And I can tell you now, from being a worker for almost 5 years there, when they did the $15 an hour raise, they took away the fact that we were shareholders. And if you were a shareholder now, in the last year, these stocks are worth over $3,000. So
Wait, can you explain
imagine,
that about
yeah,
the shareholder process?
yeah, absolutely. So back in 2015, when I was hired, every Amazon employee that was hired with the company became a shareholder automatically. It takes 2 years for your shares to vest, but once you stay 2 years, that is your money. You can cash out just like any other shareholder. You put the work in, that's your money in return, and you get an annual share every year. But when 2018, when Bernie Sanders fought for the $15 an hour against Amazon, and Amazon did that, they took away the shareholder option. So now anybody hired after 2018, up until now, present day, you're no longer an owner of the company. You're no longer a shareholder. You lost thousands of dollars a year. That was essentially another tax return for you. And you lost the fact they took away our monthly bonuses for attendance and our monthly bonuses for productivity. You no longer get that. So people got to realize what the company handed out. They gave out an inch, but they took a mile as well. They gave out breadcrumbs, and it's nothing for Amazon to pay his worker $15 an hour. You're saving the company money. So this is why we have to have unions to negotiate the cost of living where you're at. Even in Alabama, $15 an hour is not sustainable. It doesn't matter where you at in the country. You have the right to do that if you have a union representing you, opposed to not having one.
Right. I've noticed too, which was pretty weird, that Amazon never really wanted to give the $15 minimum wage anyway, but it was Bernie
No,
Sanders in the Senate fighting for the Bezos
exactly.
Act, and that would have put a lot of pressure on Amazon, and they caved. But like you said, I didn't know the part that you talked about them taking away the shareholder option.
They
Like
never
that's
talk about it.
that's what's crazy to me. And
Never talk
$15
about
minimum wage itself is the compromise position. Like you said, $25 an hour is what we need. $15 an hour doesn't even apply and help a single person, let alone if you have a family.
it. You know what the
You know,
$15 an hour is? You know what we receive in our stimulus check? Maybe 15 times 40 hours a week, $600 a week. That is it. So people got to understand this is nothing. This is it's breadcrumbs we're asking for. We got to start. We got to start raising the bar.
right. And tell us about the bonuses, because during the COVID pandemic, apparently if you're like any type of essential worker, you will receive an additional bonus for being one. And I believe some companies, they didn't really give it out like they were supposed to. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, Amazon took it away. So they took that away last June. May 31st was the last day they handed out the $2 hazard pay. It was only $2 more, and they took that away because they thought this virus was somehow disappearing. Following Trump's rhetoric, they pretty much figured, the virus is going to subside and we can go back to business as usual. This is exactly around the time when they threw out the federal case in Brooklyn last year. They threw out the case in Brooklyn, and that case was to slow down productivity and keep the hazard pay going. And guess what? They won that case, and now they figured, they're back to business as usual. They took away hazard pay for 1.5 million employees worldwide. Um, and as far as the bonuses, it's so funny. These bonuses they handed out were like $200, but the workers had to pay taxes on it. Something that Jeff Bezos, their own CEO, don't even do. So they get taxed on all these bonuses that they do receive anyway.
Right. And the funniest thing, Christian, is that Jeff Bezos and Amazon themselves, once Biden came out and said, "Hey, we're going to raise the corporate tax rate on our next infrastructure bill," they actually cheered for it. And people were surprised and pretending why they were cheering for it. Like, well, why is Amazon cheering for that? Wouldn't they pay more in taxes? They don't pay anything anyway, so it's not going to hurt them. So I believe definitively, like, we have to use antitrust legislation against Amazon because they're too big and powerful of a company. They control every market in this country. It's not just like they're a company producing a product. They control and dominate every market, the movie industry, Whole Foods, manufacturing. So what's your opinion on antitrust, and how should we go about that? Because it's not like it was in the 1800s with the Standard Oil Company. The Standard Oil Company controlled 90% of the entire oil market, and during that time, it was actually easier to get it done. But it seems like today, with Amazon not only controlling various amounts of the market, but has millions of different products and overreach across the country, I don't believe the same strategy we used back in the 1800s will be the exact same one today.
Of
So,
course not.
and
Yep.
so I know this is a loaded question. Sorry about that, but the
No, it's
first
fine.
part, the first part is should we do with antitrust the way it's originally planned, or should we go to another route where people say, hey, let's make it a public utility? So which route do you think is the best one?
Um, so I would say to make it a public um, utility would definitely be beneficial for sure. The laws from the 1800, absolutely not. We're in the 21st century. It just is what it is. This is the 21st century. We're technology driven. We're innovated just like anywhere else in the world. But here's the issue. Once again, uh, the laws in the U.S. are not like the laws in Europe or in Germany and other countries where the antitrust committees, and these are senators in Congress, these committees hold the company accountable overseas. They have cases now that they won against Amazon just this last year. And especially when it comes to workers, when they go on strike, the government protects these workers. Over here, we have a different issue. And when it comes to antitrust, all they've done is give them a slap on the wrist. If you looked at the last antitrust hearing when Jeff Bezos came to court, they had them all in the hot seat and they were drilling them, but they didn't do anything to them. They didn't fine them. They didn't hold them accountable. They didn't charge them with anything. It was just like, hey, you need to stop doing this. Okay, they're going to stop doing this. Okay, thank you. We got to stop that as well. We got to hold our elected officials accountable, making sure that they break up these companies. These companies are monopolies, especially Amazon, like you said, controls, I believe, is over 75% of the market. They have too much power. All this power shouldn't be under one entity. So I do agree that we need to break these companies up, and we definitely need to upgrade the laws and put some laws that represent the 21st century.
Right on, absolutely. I do want to continue too with the media because Amazon, like I keep saying, I know I sound like a broken record, but they are really crazy with the media, especially with the unionization drive. And they made multiple Twitter accounts going after Bernie Sanders. Because the strategy itself was like, okay, if we go after Bernie, all the the libs and all the regular people, they will look at Bernie as being bad, and then smear the entire Amazon movement as being bad. So how do you believe overall social media? Do you believe that social media itself gives unions a fair shake, and do you believe that it gave the Bessemer unionization drive a fair shake?
I believe that social media has little impact on anything. I'm just more of a, you know, face to face, old school. We got to have a conversation with you. I don't play, and it's just that that's what I seen with the union drive as well. Their campaign. Once again, it's not a shade at them. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're matching Amazon's propaganda. And there's nothing wrong with us creating our own propaganda, especially when we control our narrative. So that's what they were doing with social media. They were using it to their advantage to push out their campaign and amplify it, and it works. Obviously with the younger generation, even with us, we're gonna the ones that are in tune with the labor movement, we're gonna follow what they're doing on social media. So they have to have a strong presence there, which they did. They accomplished that. But once again, does that resonate with workers? No. That does little impact for communicating with workers. Workers don't come home and hop on Twitter, hop on the gram. They're not even allowed to have their phones in the building. So that tells you right there,
Right.
we got to go deeper than social media. We got to stay out there 24/7 talking to these workers. And when I went down to Bessemer, Alabama, that's some missed opportunities that I didn't see the union taking. I know that I was speaking to several workers day and night, and towards the end, especially when ballots were going out, that's the most crucial time when you got to talk to these workers to make sure they bring it to home plate and vote yes.
Right. And just to make a connection too, like even last summer, you saw a lot of the protest movements, and a lot of people wanted a general strike because the whole point too of a general strike was okay, if the workforce cuts off the production for certain businesses to to make capital, then you could be able to extract some concessions. No, so do you believe too that we may have to have a general strike just to try to wield power away from the corporate elites? Because we've noticed that even through COVID right now, like it's COVID, people don't have any money, so they're probably unwilling to go out and protest. So do you believe we still should do a general strike?
Absolutely, absolutely. Why not? There's nothing stopping us. You know, I just think about it like this: there's 800,000 workers for Amazon nationwide. If 800,000 workers nationwide stop going to work for one day, Jeff Bezos will lose it, and every billionaire in this country will lose it because they don't want that to happen to them and their corporations and their companies. So just imagine how much power we would have if we did go on general strike just for one day. You will rock the whole entire platform and landscape of the working class fight. And I just think that it's still a possibility that we can pull one off. Just a matter of getting on a national call with all the organizations nationwide to get on the same page. It's still a struggle trying to get everybody on the same accord, even on the left. We sometimes fight amongst each other. So they use that
That's
to
true.
their advantage. They use that to their advantage every single time. They're never going to miss on that. So we got to figure out a way to get on the same accord first, and then we can make a general strike possible. Other than that, we have no chance here in the States. We're not like other countries. Propaganda destroys everything within this country and within the labor movement.
Yeah, I've noticed too that we can't really depend on these, politicians to actually advocate for a general strike because they're in the capitalist machine. That wouldn't be good for them and not in for their interests. So, what are some good organizations we could follow, we could look at state level that could help build really and rebuild our leftist organization so we could have a potential general strike? So, do you have any organizations you follow or that you advocate for that'll help out people?
No, I'm building one now. I follow a lot of people, and I definitely stand in solidarity with a lot of organizations. From all the events I've done, I partnered up with DSA plenty of times, Sunrise. Those are the main big ones. A lot of different environmental orgs, Extinction Rebellion. I can go on for days with organizations I don't work with. Um, but on a national, broader scale, um, I'm building one. I can tell you I'm building one, and I'm not there yet, but I can tell you the Congress of Essential Workers. Our vision is to have enough workers support nationwide, and the reason why I travel the country is to build that solidarity and build that support, and we're getting there slowly but surely. We definitely gained a ton of support, and we was one of the biggest stories of 2020, and I'm proud to be a part of that organization and found it. So I figured if we get enough Amazon employees or even Walmart, Whole Food, Target, anybody, if we get enough workers support, we'll have more power than Congress, and we'll be able to shut the country down, shut the buildings down that we work at, in the snap of our finger. So that's where I'm at now. And if it gets large enough, if other orgs jump on board, and I would love to have a national call with anybody, um, then we can talk about a general strike. But right now I don't know if there's one entity. Maybe Black Lives Matter would have that type of power where they can put out a nation call, but will they actually do that? They're focused on the social injustice, but that's another way we can also attack going at a general strike, combining these movements, the social injustice, the environmental, and the labor struggles. We all came together on a national call. Your general strike will happen pretty quickly, but until then, we got to try to build from within.
Right, I can respect that. What are some strategies you have in order to fix, bad company policies towards those workers like that, like Amazon did? Plenty Amazon delivery drivers they would have to, like you said, defecate in bags and pee in bottles just to make their route time because if they're off by their route, they could be terminated.
Yeah.
There could be penalties. So what is your Congress and many other essential workers banding together to do? How can you all work together to better labor rights and better labor safety, regardless of the corporation you work for? So, any strategies you guys may have?
Yeah, absolutely. Even in our own original demands, we're talking about human rights first, above all. The reason why I spoke up and took a stance against the company because it was a life or death situation, and still is. So it's more about being treated as a human being. I was a part of this machine, and workers are a part of this machine. This is a machine. Amazon chews you up and spits you right back out. It's a hire and fire type of company. That's all they do is hire and fire people. They don't care about you individually. So our approach is that we care about you. This is a family that we building as well. And these conversations that we have, we relate to these workers. We were these workers. Even if we are former employees or current employees, we are you. We are the ones that sat there in our cubicle stations for 10, 11, 12 hours a day doing the same repetitive process as the worker that's still there now. Many of us for 3, 4, 5 years. So we know, we understand where you're coming from when you have a grievance more than anybody else, more than any union representation, more than any senator, even the president himself. The only way we're going to reach workers if workers talk to workers. And that's the way we have to. That's the way I'm trying to build. I'm trying to get workers, no matter if they're former or current workers at Amazon, to communicate, tell their stories, share their stories amongst each other, share their experiences, find that commonality, and build off of that. And that's how you'll get to your workplace committee, and that's how you'll get to a union. That I have a union drive that'll be successful next time. So that's what I'm working on currently.
That's great. So the sad part waking up this morning about the unionization drive failing, and because I really had a lot of hope for it, because I really believe that if Amazon and Bessemer, the workers, if they unionized in Alabama, that would have been a grassroots spread across the entire country. But I believe Amazon too knew that if it let its guard down and allowed its workers to unionize, their entire apple cart could be crushed throughout the entire country. And since it failed and it was unsuccessful, like how do you believe corporate media would not corporate media, how would you believe corporations will frame this narrative? So in your opinion, how do you believe other corporations are going to frame this so they can do this exact same thing to their workers if they try to unionize?
Well, even though Amazon's going to take this as a victory, they already did. They send out some type of newsletter to their employees already. Already, they're building their propaganda. That's what they're going to do. Um, Other corporations may still take it with a grain of salt because, for one, yes, they did win today with the votes. They're going to dispute it. I think the union's going to dispute or challenge it. But Amazon picked up a lot of bad PR just from the stories we just talked about, peeing in bottles. All these things are coming to the light now. Even the bad things about Amazon. It's already been around for years, but now they're starting to just resurface and continue to stab, Jeff Bezos in the back because he went to one of his meetings and he kind of lost his cool on his executives about the bad PR. So either way, we're winning a moral fight against Amazon. And I don't think corporations like Target and Whole Foods and Walmart, I don't think they want to be in that same fire. They're looking at it like, hey, look, this is a bad PR. And I think even there was something I saw, I believe, yesterday about other corporations taking a different approach with their workers now. And I'm not putting them all in good faith either. I know they're doing it just because of what's going on. But even the investors, that's the biggest key. The investors of Amazon sent letters saying stop your union busting tactics. That's what's going to really help us. The investors of the company stepping up to the plate and saying, "Hey, look, we're going to stop investing into Amazon unless you allow your workers to create these unions that they want. Let the workers decide what they want. Stop getting involved. Stop pouring millions of dollars of our money, essentially, because they're the investors and even the customer, of course, the customer's money. Stop pouring the money into union busting and worry about how you can take care of workers instead." So I don't know if all corporations, I know there's definitely going to be some that will use the same tactics if it was to happen, but I don't think they want to. I'm not sure, but we'll see. I just believe that we still, Alabama itself sparked the fuse that's still going to light this country up when it comes to unions, and people are going to attempt to do it.
Yeah, I believe what makes it difficult too is that such a large amount of people have Amazon Prime throughout their households. So if you're a current customer or user, you have a great affiliation to Amazon. Amazon is like just as American as apple pie. So that's very difficult to go about.
Absolutely. No, yeah. It's a drug that you got to wean yourself off. That's just what it is. Amazon, what were people doing 10 years ago? 10, it wasn't that long ago. It sounds long, but it wasn't. 10 years ago, you were going to the grocery store, your local mom and pop store. You were going to Main Street in your town. Go to Main Street now in your town. All the small businesses that you grew up, all the childhood memories that you had at these stores, they're gone forever because they're closed for business forever because of Amazon and these major corporations taking over your communities. So we got to remember where we came from. Stop trying to. I know that it's easy and it's a luxury to hit one click buy and be a Prime member, but think about the damage that is done to your community and your local mom and pop stores. They're no longer existing.
Yeah, I think too what's kind of crazy is I think what Amazon does when they want to come to a new state, a new area, I've seen some reporting on this, is that they would sell products lower at market value than any small and pop store and convenience store. And over time, that small and pop store would go out of business, go out of town. And so the
Okay.
only place that workers could have a job and make a living is at Amazon, right? And
And
they pay
yeah,
low. And so many times, if you're a mechanic or if you're one of those utility workers and you want to go work at Amazon, your pay is often half of what you made at the previous company. You know, so
absolutely.
so how can we as not only workers, as citizens, what can we do to lobby to states and also use our own power to fight back against Amazon trying to come into these big cities?
Well, that's another thing about holding our elected officials accountable. They hear Amazon coming to town. What they do is they offer them millions of dollars in tax incentives. Oh, we'll come to our town. They're going to bring all these jobs, and the economy is going to go up in this area. And then they realize like it's the opposite effect, and now Amazon's here, and they're just taking over everything, and they're putting a lot of businesses out of business. Um, we gotta jump that, make sure that we're ahead of them setting up shop at least. Be on top of that. Number one, number two. I'm sorry. Number two, we need to make sure that the customers cancel their Prime. As us
Yeah,
activists, the simplest thing you can do by boycotting Amazon, cancel your Prime. Stand in solidarity with the workers until they take care of the workers. If workers are taken care of, then I don't care about Amazon existing. I'm not like a anti-Amazon forever. It's a good company overall. It provides a good service. They just don't do the right thing. If they take care of their people, they take care of their workers. I don't give a damn how much money they make. If their workers are being taken care of, they're happy, they're protected, they're safe, and the workers are making a decent living wage with medical benefits and health care and child care and all these things that are bare minimum to ask for. If they have all these things, there's nothing to complain about. But until then, cancel your Prime. That's the simplest thing you can do to stand in solidarity with the movement.
right. And I'm glad we covered the union organization, what really grassroots organizations can do. I do want to talk to you about Congress because it's still kind of important. What do you believe House progressives could do that they haven't tried already to actually get some of these policies through, like a $15 minimum wage, like labor's rights legislation? So, what do you think they could do better right now? Because most people don't realize that the House progressives in the House, as a slim majority, meaning they have more power to get things through. Same thing with Bernie Sanders with the split Senate. So, what do you expect our elected officials should do, not only statewide but federally?
Number one, they need to stop tweeting about it. uh, that's just not going to help. But yeah, once again, they need to put their neck on the line as well. We put them in office for a reason to fight inside the house, not to stay with the status quo and continue to have speakers like Nancy Pelosi that just don't represent the working class. Um, we got to call them out. That's our job. Our job is to call our elected officials, even the squad, even AOC, all the ones that people love so much. Doesn't mean that they're perfect and doesn't mean that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. If they're not, then we need to hold them accountable and apply pressure to them. So I think that's what we're doing as well, calling them out, you know, just making sure that organizations don't just allow these congressmen and women to come to whatever events, hop on, the solidarity events and give a bunch of lip service and then go back to the Hill and do nothing with their pens. We need them to write some laws and bills that are going to pass. And once we get those implemented, now we're talking. The one thing that Congress could do right now, short term, because there's a bill on the table called the PRO Act that's on the Senate table right now. They need to be pushing to pass that. That's the one thing House progressives can do right now is push that PRO Act to pass the Senate so that now union busting will be held accountable against the employer and also give workers the courage to come out and start forming these unions.
Right, that's correct. We have 15 minutes left, so if anyone in our audience wants to ask Chris a question, I'll be more than happy to ask him for you. Just submit it in the chat, and that'll be great. Do you mind, Chris, if anyone asks
Not at
any
all.
questions? Okay, perfect. Um, Also, too, like I've noticed that. What do you feel about Joe Biden in particular? Because I've noticed that Joe Biden, ever since he became president, his excuse to why he can't really do anything progressive or to actually listen to the many people who voted for him is simply because, oh, the parliamentarian and unelected bureaucrat couldn't do it. Oh, it's because of Joe Manchin. So, what's your feeling on Joe Biden currently, and how has he really hurt really the black community overall and workers?
Well, that's another thing. I said it from the beginning as well. Um, we need to hold the president accountable. His first 100 days, especially the most important days, right? And also, we're not going to sit back and be complacent for 4 more years. Like, it's not going to happen. So holding them accountable. I don't care if he's the president or not. We, as organizers and activists, whatever platform we have, we need to address these issues. Call out even Kamala Harris, who signed the letter to Amazon, to Jeff Bezos on my behalf and other activists that were fired from Amazon behalf. So I'm always going to bring that up. She, along with 13 other senators, including Bernie Sanders as well, signed letters to Jeff Bezos last year when I got fired. And what have they done yet? I'm not too sure. So that's why we have to continue to apply this pressure, do our demonstrations, do our rallies, do our protests. And if Congress, the president himself, don't take notice and try to fight with us, then we show up at their doorsteps as well. I won't just be protesting in front of Jeff Bezos' house. I'll be protesting in front of the White House like I did last year when Trump was in office. So there's nothing changed. There's nothing that's going to sway us from this course. And our mission to change what's going on with the working class in America right now. I think COVID-19 is giving us all this window of opportunity to change systemically and historically what's going on. And I'm going to take that opportunity, especially while I'm unemployed right now.
Right, that's very good. I believe too that the PRO Act could be great, really, especially for workers. And I want your opinion really too on marijuana legalization. And the funny thing why I bring this up is because Kamala Harris was asked, literally, I think yesterday about it. Like, hey, why don't you have that same energy you had for marijuana decriminalization during the campaigns that you do have now? And her response was, oh, we're too busy right now. So that's what cracks me up. So what's your feeling on Kamala in general? Because to me, I don't know if she has a type of influence on the administration as what people lead on.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on her?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sold on her completely just because she's a black woman, and I get it. She reached a plateau that black women haven't reached in this country, and I commend her for that. But that doesn't give her a pass. It just doesn't. Her track record. We're talking about defunding police. We got to talk about her as well. And decriminalizing marijuana. She put plenty of people in jail for that. So that's the reason why I'm not surprised by what she said yesterday. And she's another one that definitely has to be held accountable, especially when we talk about black representation as well. That's the simplest thing you could do is legalize weed, decriminalize it, and expunge all the crimes and people that's been locked up for this drug, so to speak. That's the least they can do. So I just want to once again continue to say I'm going to hold her accountable as well, especially her, because we're supposed to look up to her, especially representing the black community and black women in power. Then we need to make sure that our messages align with our community and that she doesn't forget where we come from. She claims she's from Oakland and, she loves all the things that we love in our culture. Then she needs to show that in the White House as well. Don't go in the White House and change into the status quo, which, I'm not going to put that past her because that doesn't play in her favor when it comes to her own personal career growth. So she's going to be called out. She's going to be held accountable, just like Joe Biden, just like any other congressman and women are senator in office on that hill for the next 2 years. Actually, we're not even going to give them 4 years. We don't have time to waste. This is so key and vital to our society and humanity overall. We're talking about humanity overall when it comes to how this country is operating right now. We don't have time to waste. I think every day that passes and we don't have a bill like the PRO Act that's in, we don't have a Green New Deal, we don't have things like that's representing the working class. That's we're talking about ending society, ending humanity forever. So that's what always sits in the back of my mind, and I'm going to hold them accountable when any way I can, shape or form.
Right. A couple days ago, too, it came out that the Georgia governor signed really what mainstream media calls as the Jim Crow 2.0
Yeah.
voter restriction laws. And if you read them, they're pretty terrible. They have a lot of different restrictions. A lot of them are targeted. They want voter ID. So, what's your opinion overall about that process and the law?
Yeah, once again, I don't agree with it. Of course, this is how, um, we're talking about controlling the population and freedom of speech and everything. Surveillance, just being surveilled. Voter ID. We can't allow this. And we guess who plays a big part in that as well? Amazon. Amazon surveillance, CIA intelligence. They have over 50 former FBI and employees within their corporation, from the AWS side as well. So Amazon's watching everything. They have their hands in everything, and the same thing with the bill. Just another form of security that this country is trying to use against the people, and we don't need that. That's taking 4 steps back. 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. We don't need this anymore. We need to come to the point where the working class, just the general population itself, have more power in their hands than corporations, billionaires, the 1% class, and these senators and Congress that's supposed to be representing us. They're not representing us. We need to put officials, elected officials, in office that do. That's just the bottom line.
Right. And another initiative that was pointed out even during the Bernie primaries was ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting, I believe, is a good thing because it allows the voters to have more choice instead of the party elites. So, what's your opinion on ranked choice voting?
I agree with it as well. You're right. It gives the voter more power than the power elites. And will we ever get there? That's another question. That's something that we also can push for. This window of opportunity, we can't allow it to pass. I'll keep bringing it up because it's true. It's actually true. After every pandemic, there's an economic collapse going back to the 1930s, and then there's an uprising in the labor movement, and now the social injustice movement as well, and also the environmental movement. And I just keep bringing that up because it's so important. The political movement is also aligning with our messages. No matter what party you represent, whether it's left or right, independent, we have to find the common things that we can all build on. And who would disagree with having a fair, free voting system or a fair, free healthcare system? We don't have these things. So that's something we all can agree on. And I believe 90% of the country already does. Now it's up to us to keep applying that pressure and holding these elected officials accountable.
Right. Thank you for that because that's something that we need to do. And earlier, too, you described saying that, hey, the left, we have to be a lot better when showing solidarity with each other. Yes, we may have different disagreements about strategy, but if we all agree on the same policy, we should still have adult conversations,
Exactly.
not have so much vitriol at each other and just sit down and have these conversations. We have like a comment here from Stan Hembry. He said that Europe requires unions at Amazon and McDonald's. So maybe we as workers should actually look at how other nations, in terms of how they go about oligarchic power, how they put checks on them, and how they ensure unions. Because a lot of people, and what do you feel about the rhetoric too? That even a lot of regular American people say, oh, well, if you increase the minimum wage, it'll make the prices of food go up. And it's been disproven that overseas, that's not true. They have a union, they have a livable wage, and the cost of the goods didn't go up. So what do you feel about that?
Just put it like this in perspective. And the simplest way I can put it is, even if the cost of food went up, union, it is proven fact, and this is, you can look this up as well. People that work, are represented by unions, make almost 11 or 12,000 more than ununionized workers a year. So the cost of food going up, okay. That's okay. You pay $1 more, you're making more money, 11,000, 12,000 more a year by being unionized, opposed to being ununionized. So that's an actual fact. So once again, we need to talk about raising the bar. Why are we fighting for $15 an hour when we need to be fighting for $30 an hour? They can come down from 30 because guess what? Your employer who makes trillions of dollars, Amazon, or billions of dollars, you know, they can afford it. They can afford to pay you $30 an hour. They can afford to pay you $90 an hour. That's what we need to do. We need to raise the bar, stop fighting for crumbs. And then let's talk about working our way down from 30. Meet us halfway, that'll be the 15. If you give us more, that's a victory for us either way. So that's what we have to do. We have to raise the bar and continue to push forward.
And back to Amazon, I'd be ashamed if I didn't ask you this question. What was healthcare like working at Amazon? You know, $1 billion company. Shouldn't they have the best healthcare for their workers to treat them right? So when you were working at Amazon, how was healthcare like for you?
You had to pay into it. Whatever plan you chose to pay for, that's what you paid for. It was decent. It wasn't the best. It was decent. I can't say that it was terrible because I had worse. But you still had to pay for healthcare. If you had a family, you had to pay more. I had a family plan, so I had to pay more. But once again, that's another chunk that's coming out of your check, and that affects your household, your livelihood. You had to think about second income, and that's what I had to do. Had to get a second job to make up the difference that I lost from health insurance, my 401k, if I wanted to have some savings, because they don't give you a pension. These are things that cost you. You paying taxes, something that once again your CEO doesn't even do. So why can't Amazon offer a better package where workers can bring home more money? There's no excuse for them. They have no excuse in the world to do that. So once again, that's when it comes to a union being able to negotiate a contract where workers are sit at the round table and say, "Hey, look, I want to be paid X amount of dollars, and I want to have free healthcare and or have healthcare provided by the employer, by this $1 trillion enterprise that I work for." That's something that also can be negotiated. I want to have childcare, so I don't have to pay for a babysitter. Y'all open 24/7s. Y'all put me on the night shift. I don't have anybody to watch my child at night. So unless you can pay for childcare, I can be able to come to work. So these things are something that need to be negotiated as well. Sorry, my puppy's going crazy over here.
Oh, you're fine. What kind of dog is it?
A miniature pincher.
Oh, wow.
Hold on 1 second. She's going
Oh,
to.
no, you're fine. All right, so while everyone's still watching, make sure too to turn in. Like I said, I think I said it earlier today. We're going to be having Thomas Frank on Saturday, so that'll be pretty big as well. So make sure you tune in to that. And so I guess one last question before it's just an extension on healthcare I have for you. A lot of people, I believe earlier you said you were a proponent for Medicare for all, which is a single payer healthcare system. What's been exposed to during the COVID pandemic is that even if you had legislation like that, it's still not enough. It was almost like it's a compromise from the position. So how do you feel about certain leftists wanting to nationalize the healthcare system? Because especially under COVID and the insurance companies, the premiums were expensive. It's almost like they can do whatever they want and make so much money off of it. Like a COVID vaccine, they can make so much money off of that. So what are your thoughts on nationalizing the healthcare system?
Look at Canada. Look at all these other countries that have free healthcare, that have the actual healthcare system. For us to say that we have a healthcare system in America, we don't. We don't have a healthcare system. That's what people gotta just realize. There's no healthcare system in America. We don't have one. We have corporations and Wall Street that get all the bailout packages and the hospitals that we can't afford. Regular people can't even afford to go to when they're sick. Um, those are the ones that get bailed out. Those are the ones that get taken care of. Us working people, we suffer the most. So number one, we need to push for that. Once again, I'm calling out House progressives. Um, to hold uh, whoever they need to hold accountable as well to push for Medicare for all. Shouldn't be waiting until we get enough progressives in office. No, it doesn't work like that. We put, I don't care if it's one person, we put AOC there for a reason. We put Jamal Bowen, Corey Bush, Elmar Omar there for a reason. Rashida Tlaib, the squad, we put them there for a reason. If they're going to go there and vote no or vote yes to keep people like Nancy Pelosi that doesn't Pelosi, I'm sorry, that doesn't want to push for Medicare for all, then there's something wrong. We don't have time to wait. 15 million people right now lost their health insurance last year, just 1 year alone. 15 million. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I have no health insurance. So this is an issue that we have to address. Meanwhile, I'm talking to other countries, Cuba, South Africa, Canada, all the European countries, Australia also. They also have a healthcare system that provides free Medicare, free housing, some countries free housing, and their stimulus packages. These workers are people that got laid off or fired or lost their job. They're bringing home $3,500 a month from a stimulus check. We got nothing here in the States, nothing but breadcrumbs and pennies, and everybody's like, hey, the economy, the economy, the economy. We got to change the whole entire system right now. We have to fight for all these things while we can. Because if we do not, guess what's going to happen for the next 30, 40 years? The same shit that's been, excuse my language, the same shit that's been happening.
Oh no, you can cuss. This is a cursing friendly show.
Oh, thank God. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're all right.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
So, we
so
got to change this shit, man. We got to, yo. We have to.
yeah, I think you would think in this moment, my biggest fear is that we could end up in the same situation like it was in the 2008 with the Occupy protest movement, especially where people are rightfully outraged. People are rightfully expressing their concerns, but somehow the political machine and the big money interests would still find a way to quench us. And that's kind of my biggest fear. So, really,
Yep.
a closing question I want to ask you is there any projects? I know you mentioned you're working on the Congress you're working on. So, is anything else other you're working in the future, or is there like a big issue on your heart that you're passionate for?
So this a few things. So yes, building a coalition nationwide is one thing that I'm always seeking to do. Uh, Number two, short term, just trying to help these warehouses where I'm at in New York area, New Jersey area, try to unionize. So even though Bessemer lost today, we're still motivated over here. I've been talking to workers all week. I had a call last night with some workers in my organization, and we're going to try. We're going to continue to try. So that's short term, and then long term, once again, we can build enough worker solidarity nationwide. We'll have more power than Congress, and it's possible. It's not impossible. You just got to continue to take all the blows as they come, and stay the course. I think if we stay the course, like you mentioned, a year ago, who would have thought that I'd be sitting here, with international attention? I never would have thought about that a year ago. So if you understand, how much value you have if you fight the good fight, collectively, just imagine if we all did it collectively, how much power we really would have. So
Right,
that's it.
right. We respect you, man. Chris Smalls, you're really very influential, very bright, very important, especially for the movement. You've inspired a lot of people. I really believe if people take your advice and follow your leadership, and not only to work together, but to stand up for the issues we believe in, we can get a lot done, especially now in COVID, especially now with the economic recession we're in. If we all just band together and work together, we can do something great.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to thank everyone that was watching the FHO Network on the RJ Show. It was a pleasure having you on, my man Chris Smalls. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Solidarity, y'all.
Yep. Signing off, you guys.